Hey plant-based explorers, do you guys sometimes struggle with making one healthy meal for your family? Sometimes find yourself, feeling like a short order cook. You're cooking one meal and then a totally separate meal for the kids and maybe a separate meal even for your husband. Watch this video. I'm about to make your life a whole lot simpler with just 3 easy strategies. Welcome back. My name is Jen Rivas. I am a health coach and holistic nutritionist, but I am a plant-based enthusiast as well as a gluten-free living girl. So this topic today, this video, what I want to express to you guys is how you can resist becoming a short order cook in your own home. How you can make one meal for your entire family that they will enjoy with just a few tips and strategies that I implement almost daily. So let's just jump right in. Let's start with tip number 1, and that is to deconstruct your meals. So what does that mean? When I say deconstruct your meals, let me give you an example first. So stir fries are something that I do fairly often. I love to use up my leftovers in the fridge. I typically always have brown rice made and on hand. So when it comes time for a quick dinner, it comes together really fast. So I do it a lot, okay? But my kids don't always like their food all mixed into one bowl, right? I don't know if any of you guys can attest to this. Sometimes they get picky, especially if I'm using fresh herbs and that sort of stuff. So I'm smart, and prior to actually mixing all the stuff together, so in a typical stir fry, let's say, I might have peas or chopped up carrots. Honestly, I use any and all vegetables in the fridge. Broccoli. So what I will do is I will pick out the vegetables that I know my kids already enjoy. Peas, carrots, and broccoli are fortunately all ones that they will eat for the most part. So while I'm chopping them up, I set some aside for the kiddos, okay? Meanwhile, chopping the rest up for my husband and I to throw into the stir fry. Likewise, when it comes time to brown the rice in the pan with the rest of the vegetables, I just I heat up the rice and then set that aside for them. So now they've got their brown rice, they've got their vegetable. They don't necessarily like the soy sauce or the sesame oil. Sometimes, one of my daughters is getting a little older. She does enjoy that, so I'll give her what my husband and I are eating, but my 2 younger ones a little bit more on the picky side right now. So again, I've got that all separated for them. Now, if I feel like they need a little bit more protein, I'll open a can of beans. I'll give them, warm up some beans, give them a scoop of beans on the side. But, opening a can of beans as opposed to making a whole other meal, you can see where it's going to save you a lot of stress and a lot of time in the kitchen. So let me give you another example. I love pesto. I like to make pesto from scratch, but there's a ton of great pestos that you can get at the store as well. So pesto pasta with like some sauteed bursted tomatoes in the pan, mixed all up with some nutritional yeast or some nutty Parmesan that I like to make. It's a delicious dish, and again, comes together in minutes. However, my kids don't like the tomatoes when they're seared and they're bursting all over the place and the juices are oozing. So prior to making this dish, I'll make sure I portion off their amount of pasta. Again, some do, some don't like the pesto, so I'll give my oldest child a little bit of the pesto. The 2 younger ones, I might just add a little bit of olive oil or a little bit of vegan butter with some nutritional yeast or that Parmesan that I was talking about, the nutty Parmesan. So that they have their pasta with their toppings, and then I'll do some raw tomatoes on the side. Again, I always keep vegetables that they will eat on hand, so if they're really struggling that night, I'll grab a handful of the baby carrots, and that'll be their vegetables. So again, you're not cooking anything else, but you keep on hand those things that you know that they'll eat, whether it's the carrots with a little bit of dip or some broccoli that takes a minute or 2 to steam. Keep those things on hand so that in those nights where it's just a little bit more stressful, they're not wanting to eat, you have your go-to vegetables. So that's another example. Let me give you one more example. I love Mediterranean cooking, so a lot of times we'll have things like Kalamata olives, chickpeas, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes again. So in that instance, again, while I'm chopping, prior to mixing everything up in a bowl, you know, with whatever dressing I'm putting on it for my husband and myself, I will have a separate plate. They can have their rice, they can have their chickpeas, they can have their cucumber slices, their cherry tomatoes. They're essentially eating all the same stuff that we're eating. It's just displayed in a different way that's more palatable, more appealing to a child, let's say. So hopefully, you know, that makes sense to you guys, and you can see how you can really use that when you are cooking. Number two, the second tip or strategy I have for you is to work backwards. So you might be saying to yourself, well, I don't really cook any of that stuff, or, you know, none of that stuff is going to be something that my kid can enjoy. So you may have a little bit of a tougher challenge here, but it is possible. So you want to work backwards. You want to start with the things that everyone in your family can agree upon. Just come up with one thing. That's my challenge for you. Whether it's a protein, whether it's a bean, whether it's a starch, whether it's a vegetable, one thing that everybody enjoys, and work backwards from there. So I can tell you in our house, everyone will eat potatoes. I usually use red potatoes, but I've you know, we dabble in all different kinds of things. So I'll start with just a baked red potato. Okay, well, what's something else that all of us enjoy? Well, we pretty much all love beans and or lentils. So maybe I'll have, you know, a baked potato that's stuffed with beans, or maybe even make a chili. You know, if your kids love chili, make a big pot of chili and they can serve that inside the baked potato. But start with something that everyone enjoys and then kind of create a meal around that. Now, my third tip kind of lends into this, and that is forget about what you've learned or what is so ingrained in our heads about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, when you really think about it, like, who made up what we have to eat for breakfast? Like, who says eggs, bacon, and you know, toast is like what's normal to eat for breakfast? I'm sure if you went to different cultures, it would be totally different. But the same goes for lunch and dinner. So this is something I've actually been practicing for years now, and that is, like, I break out of the mold when it comes to challenging myself on, you know, what is really for breakfast. Like, listen, if your child loves mashed sweet potatoes, make a big batch of sweet potatoes and give them that for breakfast. I mean, that is an extremely healthy thing for them to have for breakfast. And if they love black beans, serve the sweet mashed potatoes with some black beans. You know, you have to kind of get away from this idea that, you know, breakfast has to be oatmeal or scrambled eggs. No, I mean, as long as what you're filling your child with is wholesome and nutritious, and they're eating, you know, a nice color of the rainbow throughout the day, then don't get so wrapped up in that. So again, I hope that's helpful. I hope you guys found these 3 tips and strategies useful in creating a lot less stress and you know, overwhelm when it comes to making meals for your family. I'd love for you guys to comment below. Let me know what trips you up. Or if this was helpful, I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Could you use more tips and strategies like this? Well, if so, head over to my private Facebook group. I'll leave the link in the description. And if you're watching this in a timely fashion, you need to click on the link for my 14-day Holiday Survivors program for busy moms. It is everything's done for you. It will totally de-stress your life and give you some great meal plans and holiday inspired meals delivered right to your inbox. So I'll put that link in the description as well.